On the surface, rolling over a super fund seems really easy. You send off a rollover form or you do it via MyGov and bada bing bada boom, you're done. But unfortunately, there's a little bit more to it than that. You see, there can be implications and very serious implications of rolling out of a super fund. And once you've made the rollover, you can't go back and fix it. So in today's video, I want to highlight the process of rolling over a super fund and really outline some of the key considerations you should be making before you implement any rollover. Hello guys, Brad here from The Guided Investor. Welcome back to the channel for another video. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button because I post regular videos about how you can do more with your money. And today we're talking about what you should consider and the process of rolling out of a super fund. Prior to implementing any rollover, there are a few things that you need to check first. And one of the more important ones is your existing insurance cover. You may have life insurance, total and permanent disablement or TPD insurance, or income protection within your existing superannuation fund. And if you do a full rollover out of that fund, then it's likely to cancel these policies. Of course, you can apply for replacement cover with the new fund or elsewhere, but obtaining this new cover is not guaranteed. An application for replacement insurance may be rejected due to medical reasons or occupational reasons, or you may be offered cover, but on substandard terms to what you currently have with your existing insurance policies. There are some group insurance policies out there which let you take out cover without going through an application process or an underwriting process. But this is not fail-safe either, because typically these policies will underwrite you, but at time of claim. And so that means if you have an pre-existing medical condition or illness or injury or something like that, and then you later go to claim on that policy and they underwrite it at that time, even though you've got the cover in force, it may still not pay out. Typically, I prefer to opt for a medically underwritten insurance policy where all the hard work is done up front and you know exactly what you're getting. And I always get the new insurance in force before cancelling any old policies. Prior to rolling over, you also want to consider if you've made any member contributions into your superannuation fund that you intend to claim a tax deduction for. And if you do, you need to lodge a notice of intention to claim form prior to rolling out of that fund. Once you've rolled over your balance, you cannot go back retrospectively and lodge a notice of intention to claim form. Now, this can be a very costly mistake. If you're on the top marginal tax bracket and you make a $27,500 contribution, this could potentially be an $8,800 error. Next, it's also prudent to consider what you are losing by rolling out of your existing super fund, because there are some super funds out there with some pretty unique benefits. Take, for example, GESB West State Super. Now, this is what's known as an untaxed superannuation fund, and there are very few untaxed super funds out there, but they have the benefit of giving you access to the untaxed plan cap. Now, if you roll out of GESB West State Super, you lose that benefit, and unfortunately, once a West State Super account is closed, it can't be opened again because those types of accounts are closed to new members. There are also a number of defined benefit super funds out there which can be beneficial in some circumstances because you're not subject to the usual market risks. Now, if you roll out of a defined benefit fund, you're going to interrupt the calculation and you could potentially lose out a significant benefit in that case. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should never roll out a West State Super or a defined benefit super fund. You may have very valid reasons for doing so. But what I am saying is that you should be very certain about the implications prior to lodging any rollover. There are also some employment contracts out there which may give you additional benefits for being with a particular super fund. So I know I've seen in the past where certain employers will match contributions when it's paid into a certain fund. I've seen in the past as well where employers may help cover the costs of the funds, particularly insurance premiums. So you have to consider, if you roll out of the fund and you lose these benefits, is it still going to be worthwhile to switch to a new fund? Thankfully, it is becoming less likely that your employer is linked with a particular fund, and this is something that ASIC provides pretty clear guidance on. I personally do believe that superannuation should be portable for everyone. No one should be incentivized to go through one particular fund over another, because super funds vary and the one that's right for you is going to depend on your situation and what you're trying to do. So I'm a big fan of allowing people the choice to choose their own super fund. Finally, if you're considering rolling over an account-based pension, just be aware that if your pension commenced prior to 1 January 2015, the Centrelink treatment of your pension will change. Prior to this date, pension accounts were assessed based on a deductible amount, but post 1 January 2015, pension accounts are now deemed. Rolling over will switch you to deeming, which may be less favourable from a Centrelink perspective, which may mean that you get less government support. Once you've investigated all of the benefits associated with your current fund and you've still made the decision to move, then it's time to get the wheels in motion. The first thing you need to do is apply for your replacement insurance cover. So you should do a risk needs analysis to work out how much cover you actually need, and then quote the market to find the most appropriate insurer for you. And no, your insurance cover doesn't have to be with the default insurer offered through the fund that you're rolling to. You have the ability to go around, quote the market, and fund the insurance via rollover. Now, I've done a detailed video on this in the past, which I'll link in the description box below. And if you're interested, I'll suggest you go back and watch that one. Now, I would actually suggest you contact a financial advisor to help with this part of the process. As advisors, we have a lot of tools that we can use to help quote the market and also give you some advice as to how to best structure your insurances from a tax perspective. There are a lot of insurers out there that only operate through the advisor network. They don't actually deal directly with the public. So by going through an advisor, you're gonna get a broader option of insurers to use, and it means you're likely gonna end up with a better outcome. So if you don't have an advisor, feel free to reach out and we can give you a hand. Next, you need to open up your new superannuation fund, and if you're not sure which super fund you should be opening, I have done a detailed video in the past about how to choose a super fund, and again, I will link that video in the description box below. The general process of opening up a new super fund is relatively easy. You're going to need some basic details like your name, date of birth, address, etc. It is also particularly important that you have your tax file number available, because if you don't provide your TFN, you'll miss out on the tax concessions within the fund, and concessional contributions will incur an additional 32% tax on top of the standard 15% tax. A lot of superannuation funds these days will let you open up an account online, but generally they'll also give you the option to submit a paper application. If the fund does give you the option to have a binding nomination of beneficiary and you choose to take up that option, then just be aware that binding nominations need to be witnessed by 2 people. So you're going to need to lodge the nomination of beneficiary form separate to the application if you're lodging it online. If you're opting for a non-binding nomination, then that's fine because they don't need to be witnessed. So once the application has been made and your new superannuation fund is open, then it is time to implement the rollover. Like we talked about at the start of this video, you can implement a rollover via a rollover request form, or you can do it via your MyGov. If you elect to fill in the request to rollover form, you can send the form directly to the fund you're rolling out of or to your new super fund and request that they process the rollover on your behalf. Most super funds will do this bit for you, and some of them even include the rollover form as part of the application. If you want to do it via MyGov, it's also pretty simple. Just log into your MyGov account, click on the ATO linked services, click on Super, in the drop-down menu select Manage, then Transfer Super. This is probably not the best way to roll over your super fund, particularly if it's a new super fund, because the ATO can be a little bit slow in updating its records, so it might take some time before the new super fund actually shows up through your ATO login. And here's a little trick of the trade. When rolling over to a new superannuation fund, I typically like to do a partial rollover first. So I will leave $10,000 in the old superannuation account and roll over the remainder to the new fund. And this has a few benefits. Majority of the money is switched from your old fund into your new fund straight away, which means that you're gonna start getting majority of the benefits that you're looking for by switching to the new super fund. But it also allows time for you to get your new insurance cover in force prior to cancelling your old policy. In addition, you don't want to close your old super fund if there's still contributions going into that fund. So when you open up the new fund, you need to give your employer the details of the new superannuation fund so they can start making contributions into the new fund. But I have seen times where this process can be a little bit slow, and if you've closed down the old fund and your employer are still making contributions into it, then you can run into a few issues. If money is contributed into a closed superannuation fund, it's generally refunded back to your employer, and then they're supposed to then allocate it into your new super fund. But sometimes I've seen in the past where things get neglected and money can go missing and you have to chase it up. So it's just easier if the new super fund's there and you know that contributions are going into the new fund prior to cancelling the old fund. And then once you know that your new insurance cover is in force and your employer is paying into the new fund, then you can go ahead and lodge a second rollover form for the remainder of the balance. Just be aware there may be some fees or costs involved when rolling over your super fund. Now, luckily, exit fees were banned from 1 July 2019, but there may still be some brokerage or a sell spread when selling out of your current investments. Also, if you've made a capital gain on your investment, then your super fund will pay capital gains tax. If you're in accumulation phase, the maximum tax on a capital gain is 15%. However, this can be reduced to 10% if the assets were held for longer than 12 months. During the rollover process, your money will likely be held in cash for a period of time while the transition is being made. And so this means if markets fall during that time, well, then it's going to benefit you because you're not subject to the market drop. But if markets rise, then you're going to miss out on that upside. So just be aware there is a little bit of issue with rolling over in terms of market timing. So that's it. You now know how to roll over a super fund like a professional. Now, if that all sounds a little too complicated and you're not sure which fund you should be with, then feel free to reach out and we're happy to give you a hand. But that's it for me today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and I will see you guys in the next one.